right, so this is the last part of the Unit 1B test review videos. So again, just keep watching these videos. It's a really good way to help you study at home, in case you forgot how we did them in class. But remember, the best way to study all of this is to pick the problems you didn't really understand the first time and retry them again on a separate sheet of paper. So we're going to pick up with number 6, and this is the last section. So this section is working on reading graphs and understanding functions, okay? All right, so for number 6, it says the graph below shows how the cost of a television is related to the number of televisions sold. So before I even start, I want you guys to think about this graph. If you look at this graph, it's going down, right? Which means it is negative. Hopefully we learned that in middle school. It points to the left, or it is decreasing in slope, so it is negative. But let's think about that. This says price of TVs, and this says quantity of TVs sold. If the price of a TV is really, really high, are they going to sell that many? No. The lower the price gets, the more they're going to sell, right? So this graph makes complete sense because nobody's trying to pay $1,000 for a daggone television, okay? All right, so if you read this problem, it says, what is the y-intercept of the graph and explain what it represents? So a y-intercept is where the graph touches the y-axis. Do y'all agree? All right, so if we're looking at this graph, hopefully we all see that the y-intercept is right here, right? And I just marked out that number, but it does look like the y-intercept is at 30, okay? So the y-intercept is 30. We want to explain what it represents. So the 30 is the y-intercept. If it's a y-intercept, that means the x was 0. So when the price of a television is 30, and I think that says billion, yep. So $30 billion. How many of them are sold? 0. And it also says this part is in billions. So 0 billion TVs sold, which makes sense. Okay. Now, the next part, part B, says identify and interpret the rate of change. So we want to look at this graph and figure out how it is changing. So remember, rate of change from a graph, you want to pick 2 nice points. So 2 points where you can see exactly where it crosses. So I can definitely see this one. That one's really easy to see, right? And then honestly, it's kind of hard to tell from this one because there's no line. So I'm going to pick that 0, 30 point up there too, okay? So this point is 35, 0. And this point is 0, 30. We just talked about x and y intercepts, right? If it's a y-intercept, the x is 0. If it's an x-intercept, the y is 0. So I need to find the rate of change between these 2 points. Well, hopefully you learned that if you have 2 points, you can put them in a table, right? So the x's go from 0 to 35. The y's go from 30 to 0. My first point is 0, 30. Check that. And the second one is 35, 0. That looks good. So now I just need to find the rate of change, which means I'm just looking for the pattern, right? How do you get from 30 to 0? Minus 30. How do you get from 0 to 35? Plus 35. So the rate of change will be y over x, which is negative 30 over positive 35. That's a fraction, and we can't do 30 divided by 35, but we should be able to reduce it. So I know, the biggest number that goes into both of these is going to be 5, right? Doesn't 5 go into 30 and 35? So if you do negative 30 divided by 5, you get negative 6. And if you do 35 divided by 5, you get positive 7. So this is going to be my rate of change. I'm going to box it. But you guys need to remember this part right here. Let me get a different highlighter. It says interpret. So a really good example is somebody in our class speaks Spanish and I speak English and I want someone to interpret to them what I'm saying. I'm asking someone to tell them in their own words what it means, right? So interpret just means I want you to explain it to me, okay? So remember this was y over x, right? I'm going to bring this down here so you guys can see what I'm doing. So my y's are going up or down. Am I rising 6 or going down 6? Going down 6, right? So y is going down 6. My x's are going up 7 or to the right 7, right? So x's are going right 7. Now, I want you to explain from the graph, because it said interpret, what this means. So if the y's are going down 6, that means the price is going down 6. Does everybody see that? Because the y's say price of televisions. So the price goes down $6 billion. If you read your graph, right, it said in billions. The price goes down $6 billion. As, now let's look at our x's. They're going to the right, so they're going up, right? Do you see how these numbers are getting bigger? So as the quantities increase. So the price goes down as the quantity goes up 7 billion. Okay? So the price of this graph is decreasing because it's negative. And then the quantity is always going to increase. Your x's are always going to go to the right because this is a real world graph and we can't have negative televisions. All right? So the price is going down $6 billion, negative 6, as the quantity of TVs goes up 7 billion. So plus 7. That's what it means by interpret. I want you to tell me what it means in words. Now, on your test tomorrow, if you've made it this far, I'm going to let you in on a secret. They're multiple choice. So you just have to read the answer choice that puts the numbers in the right order. Okay? All right, so the last part, what is the x-intercept? And explain what it represents. So remember, x-intercept is where it touches my x-axis. Didn't we already find that point? Right here, right? So the x-intercept is 35. And I want you to tell me what that means. So we had 35 billion televisions when the price was what? 0. So 35 billion TVs when price is $0, which makes sense because if a TV costs $0, everybody's going to be buying a TV, right? All right, this is the section where the kids usually mess up the most. Remember, it is multiple choice on the test, so it shouldn't be that difficult. You're just picking the answer choice that 1 matches your numbers that you got, but 2 puts them in the right order with the words on the graph, okay? All right, the last section is on functions. So we're going to look at this last section right here together. So for number 7, I want you to state for each of the following if it's a function and then tell me if it's linear or non-linear, okay? So let's look at number 7. If you look at this table, do any of the x's repeat? No. So remember, if none of the x's repeat, this is a function, right? So we're going to say, yes, function. Remember, I'm going to abbreviate. Y'all, my kids, you know I like to abbreviate. So this is a function because it says explain. X's don't repeat. All right, now please, please, please do not forget to do this on the test tomorrow because every year my kids are like, oh, I didn't see that part. It says then state if they are linear or non-linear. So to do that, remember, you got to find the pattern. Okay, This one's going down by 5, down by 5, down by 5. This side is going up by 7, up by 7, up by 7. Is that a consistent, constant pattern? Are the x's the same and the y's are changing the same? Yes. So let's think about it. If I go down 5, right 7, down 5, right 7, is that going to make a straight line? Yes. So this is linear. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and look at C next because that one's also a table. So first, we got to tell if it's a function. Look at your x's. I see an issue. What happened with my x's? They repeated, and if you look at the y's, they are different. So this man is trying to be married to 2 different women. That is not legal in America, right? So this is not a function because x's repeat with different y's. So I taught my students this is like Miss Poole's husband trying to be married to 2 different women. That does not fly with me. It is not functional, okay? This is not a functional. This is not a functional. This is not a function, all right? Now, we want to state if it's linear or nonlinear. It says do that if it's a function. If it's not a function, it cannot be linear or nonlinear. So we don't have to worry about that part here, okay? All right, I'm going to skip to D first because I think that one's going to be really easy for you guys too. So let's look at D. For D, I'm going to do the vertical line test because they gave me a graph. So I'm going to draw Miss Poole's husband. He's just touching Miss Poole, just touching Miss Poole, just touching Miss Poole. It's just touching in one spot. So Miss Poole's husband is just touching Miss Poole. Is that a function? Yes, a function. Because it passes the vertical line test. Okay? You could also say yes, a function because it touches once. If it's just touching this curve one time, each time you draw a line, it is a function. Okay? Now, we want to say if this one is linear or nonlinear. So look at this graph. It is curved. If it is not straight, aka curved, is it going to make a line? No. So this is non-linear. Okay. All right, and let's look at B. I'm going to zoom in for B so you guys can see what's going on. So B says x over 3 minus 3. So what I need you guys to remember is that in front of this x, there's an understood 1, right? So this is like saying y equals 1/3 x, 1 over 3, right? Minus 3. Does this equation look like mx plus b? Yes. So yes, a function, and it is linear because it looks like y equals mx plus b. Okay? So again, if you have questions on that part, come to tutoring, text me, all that jazz. All right, last section. I think this is the section you guys will probably do best on. So given the equation, find the following values. So if they give me f of 2, what did they put the 2 in for? Do y'all see how there was an x in parentheses? So anywhere we see an x, I'm going to put a 2 in. So this is going to be negative 1/2. I'm putting 2 in instead of x plus 2. So negative 1/2 times 2. If you take half of 2, that's just 1, right? And it should be negative. Negative 1 plus 2 is going to give me positive 1. So that's how you would find f of 2, okay? Now for this one, they put in negative 4 where the x was. So anywhere I see an x, I'm going to put in negative 4. half of 4 is 2. A negative times a negative should make a positive, right? So positive 2, and then I'm bringing down this plus 2 at the back. So we didn't use this, I brought them down. So 2 plus 2 gives me 4. Then for this last one, f of 0, all they did was put 0 in for x, right? See how it's in the spot for x? So where I see an x,